This video is brought to you by the Disc Golf Nerd Patreon support team. Go to patreon.com/discgolfnerd. Hello, I'm the Disc Golf Nerd. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about beginner discs. Now I know many of you might be new players, you might be looking for your first discs to purchase, or you might have been playing for a little while and you want to maybe bring a friend or a family member out on the course with you and you're looking for good beginner discs for them. We're heading in towards the holiday season. These could be good options to get your friends or your family or maybe a disc golfer who just started playing in your life. These could be good options to look into that are friendly discs that will fly easily and be effective tools to learn the game and also just work well for players that don't really know what they're doing. One of the main things you want to avoid as far as beginner discs and discs you want to start out with, you want to avoid overstable discs and you want to avoid high speed discs. In fact, if you're a brand new player and you just started playing, I think you should throw putters and mid-ranges only for a little while, at least, until you get the basics down. That's really going to help you out. If you learn how to throw going straight to a driver that's 9, 10 plus speed, it's going to be difficult for you to learn how that disc behaves. It's going to mask some of the things that you're doing. If you throw a nice, slow, neutral disc like a putter or a mid-range, it will show you what you're doing. Where a faster, more overstable disc might mask some of those problems that you might have with your form or your throwing style because they have a natural tendency to go out and go to the left. If you're a new player, you've probably seen this happen. If you've tried to throw a driver, you throw it out there, maybe it goes up high and kind of swings out to the left and drops down. Now, you might think that's the way they fly, so you have to play for that and then kind of build your early game around playing for that swing to the left, and that's just going to cause a lot of problems. Or you might end up finding that if you throw it on a steep anhyzer, that it will fly out and finish back to the left and get a little extra distance, and you go, okay, that's how I throw farther, and now you're relying on that to be able to throw. So I think a neutral mid-range or putter is your best option. I have a number of different stacks of plastic here. Here's just one of them. I have 4 different stacks like that. I'm going to show you guys all of those at the end later on in the video and give you just a few sentences about each one, just to give you some basic ideas, show you some different options, give you a couple of things to think about when it comes to those different options out there. But just in general, you want to avoid high-speed discs and you want to avoid overstable discs as a beginner, unless you want it to be overstable and you want it to go to the left. If you're a new player and you want to start learning how to utilize those discs right away, that's fine, but just know what it's designed to do, right? An overstable disc designed to fly into the wind. It's designed to prevent natural turns, designed to prevent you from turning it over to the right when you don't want to. It will go straight up to speed. It will finish hard to the left. It's very predictable and controllable in that way. But if you're a new player and you're looking for a disc to start out with, that's not what you want, because it's only going to be able to really do a few different things. You can flex it, you can throw it on hyzer, you can throw it flat and let it fade. That's, obviously there's more to it than just that. But as a beginner, if you get a nice neutral putter or mid-range, you can then learn to control all the different angles. You can throw on hyzer, flat, and hyzer. You can learn the game, and that's one of the most important things and foundational concepts I want to impart to you guys in this video, is that neutral is what you want. I also don't recommend starting with very understable discs unless you're maybe looking for a disc for a kid or somebody who's very low mobility, can't really throw it very hard. Maybe you want something that's highly understable in that instance. But for the average player, an average person out there, neutral is what you want, and that's what we're going to mostly focus on here today. You're going to see some understable discs that will fly quite neutral for a brand new player, and you'll also see some truly neutral discs that are neutral even for me when I throw them. And I think those are the ones that you want to focus on for the most part. And if you're looking for one, I think a putter is probably your best bet, just because you can putt with it, you can learn how to throw approaches with it, and you can throw it off of the tee while you're still learning to understand how to control the different angles. Now, before we get too far into the video, I wanted to let you guys know about a couple of different things. One, I have a full playlist here on the channel with a bunch of different information that might help you. So you can look for that playlist in the description below. Also, at the end of this video, I'll put a beginner's guide to disc golf that I put together a couple years ago. That will give you basic information about understable, overstable, hyzer, anhyzer, hyzer flips, flex shots. All that stuff will be included in that introductory beginner's guide video. So look for that at the end of the video or in the description down below. Also wanted to give a quick shout out to my main sponsor, Upper Park. If you guys are brand new players, you're looking for a disc golf bag that you can use out there, they have a bunch of different options from a beginner bag all the way up to the top of the line Rebel, which I'll try to put right around here, that I like to use. You can use my code at Upper Park Disc Golf, Disc Golf Nerd 10, and get yourself 10% off your first golf bag if you're a new beginner. Or if you started off with something small, or maybe something from a starter pack or anything along those lines, and you're ready to upgrade to a real bag, check out Upper Park. You're going to love it. All right, moving on. So, what specific discs do I think are good beginner discs? I have them kind of categorized. I have a bunch of different options. We're going to go through them relatively quickly. If you have any specific questions about any of this stuff, you might find a full review of a disc like the Fuse. You'll find a full review of it here on the channel. Closer look at it, side-by-side comparisons, flight footage, all that stuff. So I have a full playlist of those you can check out. But we're going to run through these quickly, and we're going to start off with some Discraft options. One, Discraft Meteor. This is one of my earliest discs. I have an ace on this disc from 2010. And I threw this thing for a long time. It was one of my favorite discs. This is an understable mid-range, but for a brand new player that you're not throwing with a lot of speed, it'll be a nice, forgiving, straight flying disc. And then as you start to get better, you start to put more speed on your shots. Now you're going to start to see it naturally turn to the right. So you can start learning hyzer flips where you throw it down on that angle and let it flip up. You can throw it nice and flat and let it turn to the right naturally. Very controllable disc, has great glide, will fly nice and far. And again, if you're a beginner, you can throw a Meteor farther and better than a high-speed driver. I guarantee it. One of my favorite discs of all time, somewhat difficult to track down perhaps at this point, is a soft magnet. You might find these on the used market or in a used section at like a local shop. That's where I got this guy right here. You can see how beat up it is, but this one flies awesome. And anytime I've given a broken in, old, chewed up soft magnet like this to a brand new player, they can throw it quite well. This is also very much on the understable side of things, but it's forgiving and will fly nice and straight for a brand new player. And again, as you get better, you can start to learn how to flip it up, turn it over, and work a lot of different lines with that. This is going to take a long time if I keep at this pace. Discraft Roach, very neutral disc. This would be high on my list from Discraft options to give to a beginner. Very rounded, comfortable feel in the hand, extremely neutral. Will hold the angle that you throw it on, and that's great. Top option out of newer discs there. These we're going to get rid of. Okay, Discmania options. I have a few different Discmania options here. You have the Sensei, which is a putter. This one is available in the active premium plastic, so it'll be nice and durable. Have not thrown this yet, but it should be a straight flying disc. I'm sure it would work fine. The Origin, definitely a big recommendation. The next three of these are really solid beginner players, amateur players looking for discs. These are really solid options, I think. Origin, very similar to the Latitude 64 Fuse, very similar to the Meteor, understable mid-range, but it flies super straight with low effort. Put it on that little hyzer and you flip up. Shout out to my Patreon supporter, Ed, for dying this one for me and sending it over. This one's beautiful. Origin is a great disc, and I'm really happy to have it to show you guys here in this video, because I think this is one that could really get the job done well for you guys. Look into that. And if you want to pair that with a putter, I think a great option from Discmania is the Link. Similar to the Roach, it is very rounded, but it has a bead on the underside here. So you can see maybe there's this little ridge there. That will kind of take some of the wear as you throw this disc and as it breaks in. And it will kind of maintain its flight characteristics a little bit longer due to that. Has a little bit different feel in the hand, but the Link, extremely neutral, and just, if you're not going to go any further and you're looking for beginner options, I really don't think you can go wrong with a Link. It will show you exactly how you throw it based on the way it flies. From hyzer to anhyzer, flat, all the little nuances in between. If you want a driver to try out as a new player. Also from Discmania, the Essence is a great option. These are readily available, and it's a nice straight flying driver. Still going to be somewhat stable to overstable for a brand new player, just due to the fact that it's 9 speed or 8 speed or so. Anything that's faster is always going to have that little bit more fade at the end of the flight for the most part. So this will do that, but it also has great glide and great carry. It would be a really nice starter set. If you got an Essence, an Origin, and a Link, that's an awesome starter set that you can continue to use for many years to come. Moving on. A lot of stuff to show you. Another huge top option for sure is the Latitude 64 Fuse. One of my favorite discs on the market. I started throwing this thing a couple years ago, even though it's been around forever, and I fell in love with this disc. You can get them in this retro baseline plastic that will fly great, but they're nice and cheap, like less than 10 bucks for these. Great beginner discs. They will break in a little bit faster, but they still fly great for quite a while. And then you have premium fuses like this one. This is an Opto X, which is a little bit of a special run. If you find a standard Opto or Gold line fuse, really any fuse in decent condition is going to fly great. Again, more of an understable disc, but supremely controllable and very straight, huge glide. I throw these for anything that I want to flip up and fly straight, or for anything that goes left to right. The fuse is a great option, and I've given this fuse to a beginner just recently, and it worked out super well. Other options here. Latitude 64 Compass. Another very high on the list in terms of recommendations. If you get a regular Opto compass from Latitude 64, it's an extremely neutral disc that will hold so many different angles and will really show you how you throw it. It'll have a little bit of fade when it slows down for a new player, but as it breaks in, it'll just become more and more neutral and just hold those release angles so nice. I love the compass. Drivers for drivers for the Latitude 64 or Dynamic Discs brands. The Fury is a great option, although somewhat difficult to find. If you're interested in something like a Fury, but you want something that's a little bit more readily available on the market, the Essence is probably what you want to use. The Discmania stuff from the Evolution line, like the Essence, the Link, and the Origin, are all made by Latitude 64 in Sweden. So it's the same quality of plastics, quality of manufacturing, great disc. The Fury is one of my favorites of all time, but it is a little tricky to find, unfortunately, lately. And then the Escape. The Escape is one of those discs from Dynamic Discs. This thing is just so good. For any player can use this disc, whether you're a brand new player all the way up to somebody like me who's been playing for a long time, or a pro player that's looking for something that has just huge glide. These things just go so far with so little effort. I love the Escape, and that's a great option as well. Okay, before we go back into a ton more of putters, I'm going to show you some other odds and ends that you might want to look into. A new company that I've been working with a little bit is Storm Discs. They have the Eye, which is a neutral mid-range. This one would be a decent option for you to check out. And they also have the Radar putter, which is a nice small diameter beaded putter. It should have some good glide and float to it. It's got a nice shape to it to kind of catch air and fly straight. I have not thrown these a ton. This one's pretty stable, but it's neutral enough that it's definitely still a good beginner option. Just going to have a little bit of fade in this particular plastic. And another disc out of left field, the RPM Discs Piwaka Waka, very similar to the Fuse. Huge glide, great disc. You can find these out there, really nice plastics that feel great. This one's dyed as well. This one is also custom dyed, just so you know, that they don't look like that off the shelf out of the factory. My first good driver was an Innova 150 class Star Valkyrie. Great disc. These aren't as common maybe in the 150 class anymore, but I'm not exactly sure because I haven't really looked into these. This was my favorite straight flying distance driver for a long time, and I threw this disc for years. This is my first ace disc. I absolutely love it. With this disc being a 150 class disc, which means it's 150 grams, let's talk about weight of your golf discs for just a minute before we go any further. I think weight can be important. And especially if you're talking about a disc that's down in the 150 class compared to like a 175 max weight disc, there are going to be some noticeable differences in there. If If you're talking about a few grams here or there, like 171 to 174, 168 to 170, it's not really all that different in my experience. And I think the actual mold and model of disc that you choose is much more important than weight. Anything that's like kind of normal weight, 165 to max weight, it's going to be fine if you choose the right mold. The right mold is definitely more important than weight in my experience. So moving on, we have the Wombat. Weird disc, not one that a lot of people talk about. Got a very strange shape. It's very unique, but it flies really straight, and that's all it really likes to do. It likes to either fly ultra straight or move to the right. So it's very hard to get this thing to go straight and then finish to the left. It really will just hold straight all the way. Another very forgiving beginner disc, great kids disc as well. I've seen young players throw this thing and get good flights out of it with that big glide, the way it traps air underneath that dome. It floats for a long time, and it's a great disc. And this one being in the G-Star plastic is actually a pretty good option because it's got some give to it. It really grips well. It'll break in relatively quickly compared to other premium expensive plastics, but this one has that really nice grip, especially getting into the colder temperatures over the winter. Great plastic, and it'll absorb some impact when it hits trees and when it hits the ground, so it's not as likely to skip and go shooting all over the place. And driving it home, I've got a big stack of neutral to understable putters as well, and these are some solid options, so let's talk about them. We have the Dynamic Discs Moonshine Deputy. Any Deputy is going to be fine as a beginner putter to throw straight. It's a little bit more on the understable side of things, so maybe not my top choice, but it's one that could definitely work. Keystone, definitely high on the list as well. Very, very straight, very glidey disc, holds the line and floats for a long time, so I love these. These are readily available, easy to find, cheap, and you can get a Keystone and be in good shape to learn the game with that. The Pure, this one is an Opto Pure. If you can find an Opto Pure like this disc will be an excellent companion as a brand new beginner and for the rest of your time playing. This thing is just a neutral, straight flying laser beam of a disc that will also hold angles really nicely, and in this nice Opto plastic is a premium plastic, will hold on to those flight characteristics for a longer period of time, and you can throw this disc almost indefinitely if you don't lose it. It's just going to keep flying awesome. I don't even know how long you'd have to throw an Opto putter that's not moving very quickly until you get so beat up that it won't fly anymore. Like I feel like this thing would just fly for so long and get you so much coverage. And if that's what you're wondering about, the differences between an Opto plastic like this or a prime plastic, which is the same as retro, like that retro fuse, or any other baseline plastic, DX or Pro D plastic from Discraft, it's just these baseline plastics usually have more grip, but they're less durable, so they won't hold up to as much abuse as other plastic types like an Opto would, or it's also known as lucid plastic for dynamic discs, but it's still the same plastic made by Latitude 64. I know that's confusing. This is a Prime EMAC Judge, and this is also a top recommendation for sure. It's a great disc. This thing flies super straight, super neutral, great glide, great carry. EMAC is an awesome guy as well, so you can support him and feel real good about throwing an EMAC Judge. EMAC Judge, great disc. Definitely going to like that one, I think, if you guys try that. Moving on, another Innova option. This is an Aviar. This is a JK Aviar. It's a beaded Aviar and a little bit more of a rubbery, gummy plastic. Again, it's not going to be quite as durable as some of the more premium plastics I showed you, but it will still fly and work for a really long time, especially with putters. Again, you're not throwing them with so much speed that they're slamming into the trees and stuff. You know, a lot of times you're throwing approaches, and if you're starting out trying to learn how to throw, you're not throwing very hard anyway. A putter in any plastic will still last you quite a while, and they will still be useful as they break in, because, you know, you start to throw it flat. As it gets more understable, maybe you just put a little bit more hyzer on it and let that natural turn work. JK Aviar, great option that would definitely serve you well. From DGA, we have the Steady. This is a great disc as well. Putter and beaded putter. Nice flat top, very neutral. I enjoyed that one as a thrower quite a bit. Bringing it home, we have the regular Judge by Dynamic Discs, not the EMAT Judge. This one has a bigger bead on the bottom, and it's a little bit more overstable. So it'll kind of go out there, have a little bit more fade at the end of the flight, but still a straight flying, neutral enough disc that would be a great beginner option and a great putter as well. That's another reason why I always recommend putters to beginners, because you can throw them, learn how to throw with them, and you can also putt with them. When you get inside the circle or close to the basket, you already have a putter. You're not trying to throw, you know, a flippy driver like a leopard or something to putt. That's not good. So if you can only get one, that's kind of why I think a putter is your best option. And driving it home, final disc I'm going to show you in this long video is a Westside Discs crown, also made in the Latitude 64 factory. This one is in the soft plastic, which could be a great option. BT soft, great option because it will grab the ground. It'll be a little bit more forgiving in the chains, maybe eat some of the impact of hitting the basket and be more likely to drop in. So that's great. And another great flying neutral disc, beaded putter that will fly really nice and straight for a long time. So that's a lot of different individual discs to consider. But once again, just to wrap it up, you want to stay away from fast discs, 10, 11 plus speed when you're just starting out. If you're looking for more information about anything disc golf related, there's a ton of videos here on the channel that I've already created. I have videos on flight numbers, understable, overstable. In just a second, you're going to see my introductory disc golf guide pop up on the screen for you to click on that. That'll give you a lot of the basics as well. And you guys know where to find me. Shoot me an email, discgolfnerd1@gmail.com. If you have specific questions, you can leave them in the comments down below. Please like the video. Please consider subscribing if you want to stay tuned and watch my other content as I release it. We have a lot of different things in the works here, and the channel's not going anywhere, so stay tuned. Thank you once again to Upper Park Disc Golf for being one of my main sponsors. I love being on the team. I love carrying my Upper Park bags like this beautiful Rebel that I might have the ability to put on the screen for you right here, or the Shift, or any of the other great bags that they have. You can use my code at upperparkdiscgolf.com. It's discgolfnerd10. Use that, you get 10% off your bag. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you all very soon. Cheers.